Israel was dying of thirst. No water again. Confused, murmuring and trapped in a wilderness with no escape. "Who will help us this time?" they shouted. Then Moses struck a rock, and what happened next changed everything. Now let us jump in straight away. The Israelites had already seen miracles most people could never imagine. They had watched God split the Red Sea in half. They had escaped Pharaoh's army. They had eaten bread that literally fell from heaven. Honestly, at this point their travel reviews should have been excellent. 5 stars. Would follow God again. But faith has a funny way of being tested right after a miracle. The Bible says they journeyed from the desert of sin, traveling from place to place exactly as the Lord commanded. That part matters, because sometimes you can be exactly where God told you to be and still feel uncomfortable, still confused, still thirsty. And when they arrived at Rephidim, there was no water, none, not a stream, not a puddle, not even one of those suspicious little desert mirages trying to prank you. Nothing, just dry ground and silence. At first, people searched, quietly, hopefully. Maybe there was a hidden spring nearby. Maybe they just had not looked hard enough. But after searching, nothing. And then the panic began. Whispers spread through the camp. "Where is the water? How long can we survive? Did Moses bring us here to die?" Soon the whispers became shouting. Fear has a way of getting louder when answers do not come quickly. And suddenly, a crowd surrounded Moses. Angry faces, desperate parents, frightened elders, the sound of frustration rising like a storm. "Give us water to drink." Moses looked at them and said, "Why are you arguing with me? Why are you testing God?" But thirsty people do not always think clearly. Let us be honest. Some people get dramatic after skipping one lunch. Imagine thousands of people with no water in the wilderness. This was not just discomfort. This was survival, and the crowd became dangerous. The Bible says, Moses feared they might stone him. That is not exactly what you want to hear as a leader. No performance review survives that. So Moses did the only thing he could do. He prayed. Not one of those polished, church-friendly prayers. Not one of those calm, poetic prayers with background piano music. No, this was raw, desperate, honest. "Lord, what do I do with these people?" And maybe that is why God answered so quickly. Because God listens closely when his children stop pretending and start being real. And God said, "Take your staff, gather the elders, go to the rock at Horeb." Now that must have sounded strange. A rock? Really? If I am one of those elders, I am probably whispering, Moses has finally lost it. Because if someone says they have found water in the desert, you expect a spring, a well, a hidden stream, not a giant rock. But God often chooses impossible places to reveal his power. Because when the miracle comes, there is no confusion about who did it. So Moses obeyed. He gathered the elders, and together they walked through the dry valley toward Horeb. The wind howled across the stones. Dust twisted through the air. The people watched from a distance, waiting, wondering, doubting. Then Moses stopped before the rock. Massive, dark, silent. God had told him something incredible. "I will stand before you there on the rock." That changes everything. Because the miracle was never in the staff. It was never in Moses. It was not even in the rock. The miracle was in God's presence. Moses lifted the staff, slowly, high into the air. The elders held their breath. The desert went still. And then, the staff slammed into the stone. For 1 second, nothing. Absolute silence. And then, the impossible happened. The rock split open. A blinding crack of light flashed through it. And then, water. Not a drip, not a trickle. Not enough to fill a cup and call it symbolic. No, a violent, roaring explosion of water burst from the rock. Blue, brilliant, powerful. It rushed across the desert floor like life itself had broken free. The elders stumbled backward in shock. Children screamed with joy. Mothers dropped to their knees crying. Men who had doubted stood frozen in disbelief. water poured everywhere, enough for every family, every child, every animal, enough. Because, when God provides, He does not do barely enough. He overflows. Moses named that place Massa and Meribah, testing and quarreling, because that was the day Israel asked, "Is the Lord really with us or not?" And honestly, that is still the question people ask today, when life feels dry, when prayers feel delayed, when answers do not come fast enough. God, are you really here? And sometimes His answer comes from the most impossible place, a rock in a desert. Breakthrough where logic says there should be none. That is who God is. He brings life from dead places, hope from hopelessness, water from a rock. So let me ask you, what is the dry place in your life that you are trusting God to fill right now? Drop it in the comments below. Let us encourage each other. And if this story reminded you that God still does the impossible, hit the like button so that more people can see it. Share it with someone who feels stuck in their wilderness. And if you want more powerful Bible stories brought to life like this, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications, because sometimes the biggest miracles begin in the driest places, and maybe your rock is about to break open.